Mm-mm. All right, we are good. Welcome, guys. I'm doing some recordings here, so I don't know, I like the system here. So I'm going to record this thing live. It's one of my favorites, by the way. It absolutely is. I would say, as far as Red Pill goes, this is canon. Um, so I'll record it live, and then I'm not going to look at the chat while because I got to keep my focus on me. And then once it's done, we'll have a little chit chat in the chat. I'll keep this up for a little bit, and then I'm going to take it down and leave it as a reward for Patreon till the end of time. Because we're going to add on some stuff to it. But so as you've seen from the talking points I've added onto it, it's going to define, like a lot of guys talk about going Rambo when they take the pill. And this is going to define it because people keep screwing it up. Next is that whole alpha and wolf scenario. Oneitis for Chad, which is absolutely common within guys who take the red pill, especially early on. And then laughing at monk mode because it's so damn ridiculous. So you're going to love it. Anyways, how's everybody doing today? John Rambo did nothing wrong. Yeah, so I guess, I'll do a quick explanation here. So going Rambo is where you apply like the advice you get from other red pill guys, strategies that we've already listed in the various materials. You'll see the sidebar series, Rolo, all of it there. And you don't apply any reflection on it. You don't see what effect something's having. Does it apply to you? Does it not? Because this isn't like tablets off the mon. Remember that episode I had where you don't want to treat this like a religion? Well, this is kind of an extension of that. This is what happens when you do. And if you just follow it, you're going to end up screwing things up. And this guy absolutely screwed up his life. His username is Alpha as Wolf, but it's been deleted since then. And it's just, there's like, I think 4 of the episodes are just breaking down how awesome of a field report this is. Like, not for him. For him, it was an absolute train wreck, but it was awesome. Didn't you see on Minecraft that there is no red pill cannon? Oh, hush. I'm telling you, man, this one's good. Unfortunately, though, it's not as cool as, like, I don't have any, there's nobody in here in a girl's DM saying, I'll bring you on my podcast unless you sleep with me, but, is what it is. Anyways, I'm going to start recording now. Didn't I say on Minecraft? What about Coming Rambo? I believe it was called the Italian Stallion. All right, well, here, all will be explained. All will be explained. Going to record now. So, welcome, guys. Another MIDS watch. If you're watching this one live, you're catching us here on YouTube. If you're not catching us live, you're most likely going to be part of the Patreon, which I've left these things up. But let's get into it. This is probably one of the more important field reports to have come out in the last 7 years. It covers so many things. And I have a couple points to bring up here. One is going to be, what the hell does it mean when somebody is going Rambo? That's a term that's been thrown around a lot. And a lot of guys seem to mean that's just a guy who's like doing it too fast or too hard or taking his own self-interest too. It's like, no, it's none of that stuff. But we'll get into that in a minute. Next is the idea of like alpha being the leader of men in like a wolf pack and crap like that. Again, complete nonsense. And this is going to kind of show you why that whole line of thinking, that whole series of mental models is not going to work with you. The third one is where guys lose oneitis for their woman and start getting oneitis for, Chad, which is really just a construct to explain principles. But a lot of guys start having that on the brain, especially younger guys. And then the last part is, monk mode's kind of a joke. And so I'm gonna show you why monk mode doesn't mean anything to a red-pilled guy. It's some weird MGTOW talking point, but I'll get into it. So this field report came out, 5, 6, maybe 6 years ago from a character who's named himself Alpha as Wolf. And from experience, we knew for about a 2-year period, everybody started calling themselves some combination of Alpha and some kind of canine. There's like an Alpha Chihuahua, Alpha as Wolf, Alpha Wolfhound, all this kind of crap. And the one thing you can take from it, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I know every time that these guys are the absolute biggest losers who always end up getting frustrated and leave because they refuse to take their life in their own responsibility. And this guy is no different. So he's actually a few field reports in right now. It started off fairly easy, same as anybody else. Lackluster sex life, doesn't know what to do. He's tall, he's fit, he's like normally attractive, but he's just socially inept. And he's actively, like, if you remember the rules of attraction, it's be attractive and don't be unattractive. So his problem is squarely in don't be unattractive. And he starts it off with, hey, it's me again. An eventful day, it seems. Anyways, during the day, kids were playing downstairs. The wife was working upstairs. I sneaked up, took the computer away, and started to play with her bobs and vagine. I've, just for the YouTube filter, by the way, I've replaced it because it was a very X-rated description of a field report. So if you start hearing some goofiness like bobs and vagine, that's me. Just go with it. You know what I'm getting at here. Anyway, she's all for it, and she wanted to give back, so we're half undressed and we're playing with each other, and so I made her O. She wanted me to O too, because she's peaking in her ovulation, and I insisted on a condom, which I don't have, but really, I didn't want to get all messy. You know, I said, you'll return the favor this evening, and that she has to wear stockings and pantyhose. Yeah, that's my thing. So the evening comes, and we're watching movies. I get quite tired from lifting, and frankly, wouldn't mind her forgetting about it, but hey, she goes up, comes down in stockings, which has not happened in a long time. As a side note, the last time we smashed was like a month ago, and this is due to me deciding to go monk mode before I sort my stuff out. I mean, okay, you can't say no to a lady, can I? So I go for it, and I go for her bobs. She's like, oh, your hands are cold, like warm them up. She's generally very sensitive to cold, so I ignore it, and she grabs my hands and pushes them away, which I consider, you know, a fitness test. So I start playing and just grab her hands and wrestle her from my perspective, you know, lightly, which makes her angry, and she tells me to stop, which I ignore, and wrestle her some more. I mean, it's a fitness test, right? If I stop, I'm in her frame. Plus, this is kind of funny, and I really hate boring sessions. Now, I really did nothing but held her hands and pushed them around a bit. I didn't use force, but from her perspective, well, you know, I'm almost twice as heavy. So anyway, she started to be angry more and more, and that I should stop. Now, I can't recall word for word how it went, but my association was more of someone who wants to control their dog, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm the strong, powerful dog who used to be so nice and beta and not harmful in any way. So from there, she just starts bitching, like, what's got into you? I think you've changed. And this is the first time, by the way, since I found the red pill that she said anything. I never said a word. I just pondered what to do, stopped, and I'm realizing I'm in her frame. Go on, and I could really go over the top, especially considering my previous post. So I just said something like, geez, I'm just going to go watch my movie, and I left. I took my computer, put on my headset, and continued watching. She was bitching as she always did, but I never paid attention to it or replied. Anyways, I'm at a crossroad. What if the red pill is wrong? Like, I'm in uncharted territory here, and I don't want to rule her with force, yet it seems like my sexual market value is just not high enough for her to really want me. But tonight, I think, was the first time her vagina actually failed her. Yeah. So, if you've been around the red pill space a while, you've done some readings, you kind of understand some things. This is like, take that field report, pause the video here, and just think to yourself, like, where were the mistakes made? Why were they being made? And what would you do in that situation? And then we're going to come back. And again, there's Jack 10 of Hearts, prolific poster. A lot of the stuff, he's always got his hands in some of the greatest things here. And this is probably one of the best takes I've seen on this one. But we started off here where he brings up a couple of Alpha Eswolf's points. Like, what if the red pill is wrong? He's like, yep, yeah, you figured it out, man. It couldn't possibly be because you're screwing this shit up. And then he brings up the line where the girl's like, hey, your hands are cold, warm them up. And she's very sensitive of cold. So he's like, let me get this straight. She's initiating here, right? It's not like you initiated and she's making you jump through a bunch of hoops and maybe you're going to get some starfish sex at the end. Right? Like, also, this sexual encounter is going to involve her pleasuring you. Since your enjoyment will probably be correlated to how authentically happy she seems to be when she's doing this, she probably figured she'd be able to give you a more enthusiastic blowy if your hands weren't cold and causing her nipples to invert. And you say she's sensitive to cold, so maybe, you know, it's not a frame thing. Maybe it's just your hands were cold. And instead of just harmlessly bantering about your cold hands with countless options, like, well, you better do something to warm them up. That's the one that just comes to mind. You turn this into some sort of dominance test, which probably defeats the goal that she had in mind. She's coming downstairs to seduce you. She wants to feel like the sexy seductress, and it's tough to do that when you're pinning her down for whatever reason. Perhaps to show you that you do, in fact, lift, bro. Brings up the next line of the guy where he's like, he stops and he realizes he's in her frame. He's like, I have no idea what you consider the definition of frame, but I am pretty sure that it's flat out wrong. She already entered your fucking frame because you told her she owed you one, and here she is, willingly complying. And all that she asks is that your frame involve the option to give her husband a blowjob without having cold boobs. And you're just sort of acting like this is some jerky third grade boy on the playground. Brings up Alpha as Wolf's previous post. He's like, my gut interpretation is that you default to shut up and play wrestle way too often as a response to any fitness test. And this is probably exasperated because you're perceiving way more fitness tests than she's actually giving. So externally, it just looks like she tries to communicate with you and you physically throw her around. This part, I actually like this part. So he's like, no, I can't recall word for word how it went. And Jack's like, it fucking pisses me off when people say, I cannot recall exactly how the conversation went, because it's like, dude, stop. You're coming here to some random subreddit asking a bunch of random fucking strangers for opinions on your life and your marriage. Any help you receive will literally be correlated to how much introspection and thinking you did yourself. So when somebody says, I don't recall, it's just like such a fucking lazy thing to do. Like you're asking internet strangers for advice on a situation that not only did you not reflect on yourself, but you can't even recall what happened to reflect on. Think about that one, champ. And then the last point here he brings up is he's bringing up this is an association of a girl trying to control a rabid dog and how he's like, Alpha as Wolf. So your association is this way because you've somehow concluded that Red Pill says your wife is this mastermind female manipulator, and every action she takes is an attempt to subjugate and undermine you, which will naturally cause you to treat every interaction as an adversarial battle of dominance. And even worse, you're so clearly slow-witted that you can't even verbally respond to these imagined battles in your head, so you just default to some sort of physical dominance and think that's not entering her frame. So let me ask you this. Your wife literally got dressed up and tried to give you a blowjob, and somehow this led to an argument and no blowjob. So is Red Pill wrong, or are you? I love that part because it puts everything into perspective. There's just so much about it. Guys aren't self-aware. Guys keep appealing to this idea of Chad. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's trying to think, what would the alpha do in this situation? What would that wolf do in this situation? He's trying to he's got Oneitis for an invented fiction. Like, Chad doesn't exist. Chad is a container word that we throw all of the qualities that have attractive men with healthy sex lives. We put it in there so that way we don't have to say, a guy with the predominance of alpha blah 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 and all these random definitions. So we can just say Chad. And everybody's on the same page. Which is great when you're in a locker room and you're talking notes with men. Not so great if you're trying to explain it to an audience. So for you guys, generally speaking, when you say Chad, you talk about a guy who gets sexual interest from women with minimal conscious effort. Like, it's instinctive. That's your Chad. If you really have to think of an example of it, think of that football player, Gronkowski, I think is his name. Exactly. Adding to that, you notice his thing about monk mode? For a month, he just stopped and detached from the world. He stopped initiating with his wife. He stopped working on, the social aspect of it. He just retreated into his man cave. And you already know that if you've been red-pilled for any length of time, you probably have heard the 48 Laws of Power before. And it's one of them flat out in there is that isolation is bad. I don't remember the exact wording of the rule right now, but essentially don't isolate from the enemy. And in this case, enemy being the wife, which when guys are starting out, they treat it as an adversarial process. That's normal. But it's not supposed to be that way. It's not adversarial. And this comes with something we came up with later. We call it the scoreboard theory of frame. Like most guys will go through a 3-step process. It starts with understanding there's a scoreboard and the girl's racking up numbers while you're not. And then it's learning how to put up your own points on the scoreboard. And then finally it's realizing that there is no scoreboard and you're not fighting with this woman. Like, she's on your team. Or better yet, from a frame perspective, there is no team. There's your way with zero expectations, and her way that if she wants in your life, she has to do things that are valuable to you. And that's the end goal. But yeah, and one of my favorite parts of this too, I have like 8 favorite parts, is the guy's response to this. Where is it? Just a little bit lower here. Yeah. So he's like, well, no, fuck, no. First off, she would not have complained about the hands to Chad. Secondly, I actually stopped touching her body, and all I did was basically hold her arms. It was maybe only like a little rough. No worse than I would do when I'm playing with my kids. So I don't buy into all this bitching at me. Basically, this sub is just, let's mock some guys after following what we say word for word. You know what? Fuck that. Again, this one's kind of like, you can tell. There's a great post, which I don't know if I'm going to put it up. I can't remember if it's in a mids watch or not, but it's guys with no frame and the things they do. Wine More Please. One of the guys, he's been around for forever. Awesome guy. Probably the strongest frame within the red pill, married or single otherwise. And he brings up a very obvious strategy that you do when you're offering advice to a guy in a red pill context, is that you kind of have to pepper a frame check in it. In this case, Jack calling the guy a fucking idiot. Because he's not only did he do that, he listed like 8 or 9 takeaways for the guy that he could have some self-awareness and learn from. Didn't use any of them. And that's what guys with no frame do. They automatically latch on to that ego defense. Somebody attacked you as an alpha wolf. You better shut that shit down. And that's exactly what he did. And so you already know. At this point, the guy's too far gone. We ended up banning him from this, by the way. I think he had maybe one more field report. It could have even been this one, where I think it was one of the moderators, Huey McGill, finally said, like, look, man, we can't help you. You can't help yourself. This place isn't for you. And you have to, like, we're showing you the door before you end up doing something stupid. And we end up on the news with some red pill guy doing something that shouldn't have been done. And that was the end of it. And then we have a bunch of breakdowns later, but that's a different episode. So Jack looks at this. He's like, realize that this isn't the stinging rebuttal that you probably imagined it was in your mind, but just one more condemnation of your utter stupidity, particularly that word-for-word comment you just made. Like, it's impossible to follow Red Pill word for word. If you tried to combine all the Red Pilled content, the subreddits, the prerequisite books like No More Mr. Nice Guy, When I Say No I Feel Guilty, Married Man's Sex Life Primer, etc., go to the popular blogs like Rollo, like Dalrock, like Ironwood, you'd find countless paradoxes, if not literal contradictions. And this is why your behavior is so contradictory to all the rest of us. Your wife wants to get you off, but you don't want to get messy. You're not even particularly in the mood to even have sex. So then she initiates. Then you get upset when she says your hands are cold, start pinning her down. Like, what the fuck, dude? Seriously. The reason why none of your behavior makes any sense to us is because it's like we're watching somebody park their car, open the door, lock the car, close the door, smash the window of their now locked car, grab the garage door opener out of their car, open the garage, walk into the garage, grab their spare key so they could lock their car again. So like I said, what the fuck, dude? Like, why did you do all this pointless shit? You could have either had a locked car or an unlocked car without all that hassle. So if you try to follow Red Pill word for word, this is what happens. Remember this too, guys. It's a theme I bring up on a lot of these ones. Don't take it literally, but take it seriously. And there's always agency for you. Don't just hand over agency to a bunch of random assholes on the internet. And so yeah, I suspect a lot of these contradictions stem from the main Red Pilled subreddit, which is essentially an echo chamber of saying, wow, women are such shitty whores, aren't they? Like, realize though, that echo chamber is mostly generated by sexually frustrated single males in their early 20s who likely come from an upper middle class socioeconomic background and whose helicopter parents made them entitled in pretty much all the ways. I want to stand for the main subreddit too. There's a lot of switched on guys in there, but I will argue the switched on guys tend to be older. It's true. The younger guys really, and if you're online in the red pill space for any length of time, you're going to notice the drama and the entitlement and the nonsense always seems to follow the younger creators around. And there's a reason for that. It's a lot of guys just have to learn it the hard way. So continuing on though. So perhaps that demographic's advice may not be worth heeding wholesale, if not word for word, since it's probably that content that's causing you to think you need to have such an adversarial approach with your wife and causing you to reject all of our advice, even though we've practically all in unison said the same version of, "You're doing it wrong, dude." And just so you know, that fuck that comment was not intended to convince you otherwise. This comment was written purely for any other married red pill readers who may be trying to swallow the red pill, but feel like they're now ending up in a needlessly adversarial relationship with their wife, and they're wondering what's happening. My hope is they, unlike you, realize their approach may be misguided because it involves too much anger, or a misunderstanding of frame, or whatever else it may be. You've clearly established yourself to be a hopeless cause, and given that you seem incapable of any introspection for any advice given here to you, then I can only recommend you stop posting on the Married Red Pill or on the Ask Married Red Pill, if only because your inevitably domestic violence charge will force you to do that anyway. Doesn't get much harsher than that. And this is, I mean, there's so many things I could take out of this one. And I monk mode first off, like he did monk mode. You're not self-aware just because you did monk mode. All you're doing is you're hiding from a discomfort. That's why I absolutely laugh at anybody who says monk mode is useful. And they can come up with all kinds of stories, but I'm like, I see too many guys implementing it and not a single guy has done it right. So I'm treating monk mode the same way I treat communism. Yeah, on paper it looks great, but in practice it never seems to work out that way. So this is Rambo. Rambo is when you do things with zero self-awareness. You jump in both feet to everything red pill and you listen word for every strategy, no matter how convoluted, without any thought as to whether it's applicable to your life, whether the speaker knows what he's talking about, whether the strategy works, whether it's been replicated, and whether it's actually working in your life. I talk a lot about OODA loops, or observe, orient, decide, act. He had no OODA loops. Like, there was about 5 situations in there, and he fucked up all of them. And here's how it usually went. He went into a situation with his mind. This is what woman is in my mind, evil Machiavellian mastermind. He went in this situation thinking, how do I be more alpha? Things happened, and he just responded, what would 23-year-old Chad do? And then he did the absolute biggest MGTOW, just got banned from the incel sub and came to the red pill answer possible. And when it didn't work, he's like, I never wanted it anyway. Leaves, and then repeat the process. And so you can kind of see, right? Like, these are the kind of guys who end up coming into like a purple pill debate space, or, you know, coming onto a feminist Discord channel saying, oh, the red pill doesn't work. I tried it and it ruined my marriage. And the girls all take him in with wonderful arms. And then they find out once he starts opening up about his own story, they're like, this guy's an idiot. And now it's all of a sudden the red pill is misogynist. So it's like, we can't catch a break. We catch loser men. And we've all been loser men at some point. You don't end up here without having at least like 5 minute, your 5 minute of loser fame. But most guys fix it. They sort it out. They learn from their mistakes. They move on and they, you know, reflect back on the past to have a good laugh about it. But there's a lot of guys you just kind of have to read the last rites to. And it's like Jack said, man. Eventually, if we don't kick you out, your domestic violence charge is going to force you to be kicked out. And so we'd rather just not wear this stink. So do remember this and keep this in mind. Every time you see guys talking about red pill your friends, red pill your family, like, are you willing to take responsibility for a guy who's completely clueless, gronking into a situation? I don't think so. Don't try to red pill your friends. Don't try to help them. The information is out there. If they want it, they know how to find it, and they need to learn to take responsibility for their own actions and be self-aware to their own situation. And you don't want any part of that, because I'm telling you right now, for every one Rule Zero dad or awesome married guy, there is going to be 500 alpha as wolves. Just keep that in mind. Last point I'll make on this one is that Oneitis for Chad thing. So if your Oneitis is for Chad, just realize it's not that you removed your scarcity. And that's when people talk about scarcity mindset, that's what they mean. They mean, like, what's that movie, Of Mice and Men? Where Lenny wants to pet the rabbit, he pets it so hard he, like, breaks its neck. So guys will have one-nighters for their wives. She won't sleep with me. I just want her so bad. How do I get my wife to smash? And then they go to the married red pill and they find the space. Or they go to the red pill because, you know, that girl I'm interested in won't sleep with me. She shut me down. What do I do? And then they take that one-itis for their girl, their anger phase, and guys are offering some guidance, but they listen to the wrong voices. This is why we had Flair introduced. So that way, if you had two guys talking nonsense, at least one guy, you had half an idea is like, okay, maybe give this one a little more credence because he's been vetted by the community. It was never a trophy. It was more of a vetting strategy. But then they take that same scarcity mentality and they just wrap a red coat of paint on it. And instead of having one-itis for their woman, they have one-itis for Chad, or one-itis for the concept of being alpha, or one-itis for being part of the red pill super secret He-Man woman haters club, or one-itis for Trump or Jesus, or any number of things. And again, it all stems to that same field report I had a little bit ago. I think it's episode 14, maybe 15, about how religion isn't the answer. The point of this isn't that it's a collection of truth. Anytime you hear somebody say red pill is truth, you know they're lying to you. Either they're lying to you, or they're naive about it, or they're just stupid. And think about this guy with cold hands every time you hear a guy say red pill is truth. And just remember, stay the fuck away from that idiot because he's going to screw up his life. And then he's going to make us all look bad. So I don't know how else to like harp on this. It's probably my favorite example of what not to do and some of the telltale signs of guys with no frame and the things they do. Hope you enjoyed. I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Cheers. There. Done. I wouldn't even use Children with Dynamite. Like, I know that's the Rolo post, and everybody likes to go forward with the Rolo post. Sorry, I'm seeing your thing, Marty, here, and commenting on it as we're going on. No, it's not Children with Dynamite, because Children with Dynamite, and this is, I would say, I mean, Rolo can't be all things to all people, so it's not an expectation I have for him, not a serious one, but when he says Children with Dynamite, he's not suggesting a fucking idiot. He's suggesting a guy who knows what he wants, and he has some weird blue pill fantasy of like the white picket fence and the trad life and the loyal wife who's like fucks like a porn star but acts like Madonna. Virginal Madonna, not, you know, whore Madonna. And he's using red pill as like a way to do that, and then he hides into his beefs. Yeah, that's not what this is at all. And that's not what Rolo describes in Children with Dynamite. This one is a guy who's on board. He gets it. The idea is to have more sex. The guy's sexual strategy. He's on with it. He doesn't have any blue pill fantasies. He's just stupid. Yeah, he's just stupid. And for guys that are just stupid and they don't want to learn, you just got to let them burn. Like, he literally has to learn this the hard way. And unfortunately, his wife is probably going to be none too happy about having to teach him the hard way. So it gives you, and it's kind of like, if you're in this space long enough, dudes, like, you're going to have that moment where you're like, Jesus, like, these feminists kind of have a point. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the thing here. So this isn't Children with Dynamite. Again, these are very specific things. That's another reason why I don't like using what do you call it, the jargon too much. Because if you use the jargon too much, then people mess up their terms. It turns everything into a container word. You fill it up with your feelings. That's how this guy got into the problem, because he was alpha as wolf. He's a wolf pack leader. It's like, that's not what alpha is, dude. But no, we put a container of alpha, and everybody keeps wanting to like slather more alpha onto their life, and red-pilled sprinkles on my alpha cupcake, and all of a sudden life is perfect. It's like, no, man, that's not how it works. So if at all possible, when you're talking to somebody, especially somebody you don't know their level of red-pilled knowledge and how much of it they've applied in their life, skip the jargon if at all possible. Thank you, by the way, Dante. Yeah, the second channel, the gaming channel. We're so close, man. Almost hit our first 1,000 subscribers. It's going to be fun. I'm going to do a video surprise for you guys as like a thank you for that. But yeah, the sad thing is some people burn and never learn. I don't consider it sad at all. I actually kind of like it. I mean, it sucks for those people, but it lets you know that, okay, For the guys that get it, for the guys that do work, at least, like, it's not so stupidly easy that you have to be a fucking moron not to have done it. Like, okay, so it's possible to fuck up in life. I get it. That's normal. Guys fall down. It's good. Some guys just aren't capable of being in a happy, healthy, and long-lasting relationship. Some guys just aren't wired for it. Some guys are just destined to go to prison. So that lets you know at least then you've achieved something that's worth achieving and takes some effort. Yeah, just keep adding sprinkles. The one thing too for you guys, Swerve the Red Pill Gamer, thank you very much. $3 super chat. Thanks for the content. Help me end the anger phase. Oh yeah, dude. Again, I think I put it out as a tweet today how it's like I'm the manosphere killer. That's my job. Ethan, I see your thing here. I'll get to that in a second here. Brain damage available heuristics. Yeah, it's like anger phase sells. This is my big problem with the space. I remember Illimitable Man had this issue with it, and I had an issue with it. It was like 3 years back, but the anger is a limbic brain thing, right? It's like an emotion. It's an emotion mixed with a social grievance. And the more valid the grievance is, the more strong the emotion is. That's why anger is anger. And guys have very few emotions. Testosterone actually mutes your emotional response. But that's the thing. By skipping your frontal lobe and going straight to the limbic brain, it's easier to make purchasing decisions. In fact, most of marketing is based on getting somebody into emotional states. That's why fear of missing out is a thing. That's why getting somebody pissed off. That's why, be afraid of COVID. By the way, here's my 8 vaccine booster shots are in this place. Get a guy into an emotional response, and then they are primed to make purchasing decisions without their frontal lobe saying, dude, maybe you don't need my Red Pill Alpha starter pack for $500. So for when you see marketers talking Red Pill, and, I've done a little bit of red meat too, because, it works, right? But idea is I'm trying to do it as a Mott and Bailey as best I can, which is why I'm, 16, 17,000 subscribers. And meanwhile, guys like Fresh and Fit have blown up to 400,000 subscribers in the same length of time. Both of us are yelling at drunk chicks. I'm just making sure there's a takeaway for it on my side. I'm not kicking them out of my studio. But what was the question here? It was about, how do you know if you're getting good advice or not? So this is the fun thing. Like, how do you know you're getting good advice or not? I think I had a post on this one too. I might go dredge it up later, but it was how to tell if you're getting good advice. And you can't tell. When you're first starting out, you have no idea what works and what doesn't work. But that's the problem. People rely on stupid markers. They'll link receipts. I want to see a guy's receipts. I want to see you fucking 8s and 9s and 10s before I even think about taking your advice, which is great. I mean, obviously you're going to take money-making advice from a guy who made his own money, but a guy can fake receipts. So easy. Hire a bunch of hookers to sit in the background and say how awesome you are. Promise a bunch of OnlyFans accounts that, hey, you're going to give links to their OnlyFans content if they come on your podcast. What are some of the other examples? Rent a Lamborghini. Take a bunch of pictures. Don't tell anybody on your communist podcast that your dad is a rich dude in Beverly Hills and he's basically financially fronting your grift. Like I said, receipts are too easy to fake because people who don't know what they're doing will trust in bad signals. Like, here's another example of that. How many billionaires put spinners on their rims? None. But poor people who want to flex having money put spinners on their rims. And Lou's got a good point here. So thank you for the £5 super chat. Came into this space 80% of the way there. The biggest surprise was how much I knew about men. And this is another answer to that too. It's like, you should kind of like if you have some experience, most guys have some. Nobody is ever 0% red pill. They always kind of like, yeah, I got half of it already, or 80% for a lot of guys. Maybe they were Chad and they were like, dude, I knew all this stuff, but I just never knew how to articulate it. And then there's always like a 20 to 50% of it. The guy's like, I didn't know about this, but it's amazing. That's the other way you find out what advice is good. Listen to the other person's advice. Well, this stuff makes sense. This stuff worked for me before. This stuff works. This stuff works. Maybe this extra leap he's saying is something useful. That's another way to do it. A third way to do it is don't trust people giving you advice. I was talking about this on an old Rule Zero episode, and it was just, like everybody's like, oh, you can't be anonymous. You got to show your face, put your sin in the game. You got to have receipts. And it's like for every example guys had of who you should listen to and who you shouldn't, I can think of a perfectly opposite example. Like if you're not showing your face, you're not serious. But, you know, Black Label Logic, Carl, trust him with my life. His advice is always solid good. Completely anonymous. Nobody knows who he is. So it's not that. Well, maybe it's guys showing receipts, 9s and 10s. It's like, well, you got a guy who's running like a digital webcam thing. His employees are showing up to show how alpha he is, or a guy in Brazil is hiring Brazilian hookers for $20 a pop. Can't trust receipts. A stupid carnival clown with a MAGA hat's renting a Lamborghini to show how awesome he is. Like, you can fake anything. And I found the only thing I can take as sacrosanct is the best advice to take is a guy who doesn't like you and isn't giving you advice. It's like working through it himself. It's not that, like for MIDS Watch, great example. I'm not here telling you guys how to live your life. I'm here doing research for my second book. But I just thought while I'm doing it, I can record it. And then I can record it, I can put some aesthetics around it, make it a video series, and add it as a supplement. Because I hate doing single serving work. In this case, I've done one piece of work. It helps me write a book, it helps me put out a video, and it has a live stream for me to engage with you guys. Tripling up my effort. There's your entrepreneurial mindset. But that's the kind of thing you can trust. And to be fair, like, yeah, this Alpha's Wolf guy, I can't stand this guy. I'm pretty sure I actually banned him. I'm trying to think about it. It's been so long now, I can't remember, but it seems like the kind of thing I would have done now that I'm thinking about it. And then we got here, Lost in the Wild. When I first read game books, I can remember experiences where I was using this stuff. I remember using push-pull instinctively. It was just too late by then. Yeah, see? That's how this should work. Because no man is completely clueless. I don't care how strong the Disney fantasy is. Like, you know what you're doing. You just don't know all of what you're doing. And sometimes you weren't self-aware enough to know about it. And that's all it is. Entrepreneurial mindset in cars. That Rule Zero was so funny awkward when MLD trashed a non-unknowns and Carl just sat there. Yeah, I mean, Carl doesn't take... To be fair, Carl probably wasn't even on. Wasn't listening. For a bunch of them, like, he's tired of the same, like, looks, money, game shit, and he's not pitching the content. So, more often than not, he's probably just, like, making dinner, or getting drunk, or, you know, getting weed from Amsterdam, or whatever the hell he does. I don't even know. No, of course he doesn't mean Carl, but that's the point, right? Like, all these examples, they're all contextual. And you got to remember, this is all contextual. You can't take all this shit seriously. Or literally. Take it seriously. If you took everything Illimitable Man said seriously, you're going to think women are Machiavellian mastermind overlords. And that you have to act like it's, you know, you face off and you're fighting, what's his name, Castor Troy. If you listen to some of the MGTOW guys, you're going to think that women are emotional bobbleheads and don't know what the hell they're doing. And they're just like children and you got to deal with them as such. Like, which one is it? Well, I mean, I lean towards the side of just emotional people doing emotional things. So I lean to the bobblehead side, but some women are vicious and Machiavellian, so you just got to contextually, which one is it right now? Am I getting a girl acting all stupid and emotional, or do I get a girl that's trying to manipulate me because she wants free shit? But you can use your eyes. So yeah, the best guy to get advice from is your own fucking two eyes. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying guys who are selling shit are inherently dishonest either. I mean, I sell in a book. I have a YouTube channel. I want you guys to subscribe to Patreon. I'm selling. Do I consider my advice to be bad? Well, I mean, obviously, I consider John's body language mastery course to be just awesome. His SALT course was pretty good. Rollo's books are good. Do I think he has all the answers? No, but nobody has all the answers. That's the whole reason why it's a collection of authors and pickup artists and doctors and lawyers and shit in a space, because not one person is going to have all these answers. But 100 people together are going to put their collective heads together and come up with something that generally points in the good direction that you can use to yourself. RSD said to use field experience as king. Thoughts? Well, I mean, yes. Do the work. Do you remember that catchy phrase? Rich throws it out. Do the work. Well, that's how you know things work, because you replicated them. Again, the red pill has always been low rigor, high replication. Always. The science is absolutely ridiculous. The terms are silly. The explanations we use aren't necessarily correct, but you use them, and guys will make decisions that end up making their life better. And if you want to know if this is true or not, you can have 100,000 testimonials, and it could still all be a lie. God knows I can think of tons of examples. How many people talked about the Afghan war being weapons of mass destruction, how many people talked about saving the Afghani people, how many people talked about bringing democracy, and how much of it was a lie. 100% of it. So just saying. I just finished your first book. I think a lot of the red pill advice is way too far away from the field. They talk about red pill like it's some abstract philosophy. Yeah. You're catching on to one of my... Dude, I'm going to do a rant on this one. I fucking hate that shit, man. Drives me nuts. Like, the touch grass is real. And it's my first indication that the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, if at no point he can't bring... Like, everybody's like, anecdotes aren't real evidence. I'm like, yeah. But anecdotes shows me somebody's actually paying attention to people. I cannot stand that abstract philosophy shit on both sides, on the anti-red side and on the red side. That's how you get these stupid MGTOW 42069 channels talking about, well, all women do this. And the problem when you get that abstract philosophy is you actually do lean towards like the ideological side of this, which is not a side. Like, there is no ideology. Everybody tries to make it one, and everybody tries to accuse it of one, but there isn't one. Well, it's about getting women barefoot and pregnant. It's like, dude, I can show you eight guys who have more experience in this than me, who have flat out said no and given you great personal and theoretical examples as to why it's not the case. It's not. Is it about a white picket fence? It's like, no. I can show you Whisper has like 800 posts about how that white picket fence is a fiction designed to keep you as a plow horse. Well, isn't it about Christianity? It's like, no, I could point out 500 atheists. Guys with poly, guys with multiple girls at home, waiting for them. But Patrice O'Neill had like a bunch of girlfriends and they cheated on each other all the time. Still had a red pill enough life. So it's not about that stuff. Well, then it's just about degenerately destroying the West. It's like, dude, nobody gives a fuck about the West. Not a single political action committee has ever donated $1 in the name of red pill. So don't give me this stuff. But again, everybody's running all their little fiefdoms, all their little grifting fiefdoms. And then they take this thing that they've never seen before because it's the only one that hasn't had some, like, no offense to them, but no, like, woman running her mouth in it. Well, till Cassie J, but she doesn't really fucking count. And then they're like, I don't know how to approach this thing. It's just a bunch of... It's like the Taliban invasion of Afghanistan. Guys are like, I don't know how to process this. And they're all trying to, like, I don't know, maybe it's they're going to treat the woman bad, or... I don't know, maybe they're eating ice cream, so they're not real communists. It's like, maybe it's an American problem. I don't fucking know. And they don't know what to do with it. And that's why you get red pill is like the boogeyman. It's like the Ric Flair of grifting. Oh, this guy's a villain. These guys are bad. Oh, they're incel shooters this week, and the next week they're pickup artists trying to steal your women, and this week they're guys ruining marriages because they're having a midlife crisis, and then the next week they're another incel shooter. And it's like, which bad guy do you want me to be, man? Because I can't be all things to all people. No. Now, it's not a philosophy either. See, Marty's saying it's a philosophy, and it's not. A philosophy is abstract. It's logical. It's rational. It's not that either. It doesn't have to be. There's no reason you can't be overly emotional. Anger, the anger phase in and of itself, is not rational or logical, but it's useful. And that's why it's a praxeology. It's a system of practice. You assume that people react to the incentives around them and to, like, stimulus, including environment. And based on that, their actions are predictable. And that predictability allows you to navigate it. It's like game theory. Game, literally. So it's why it's praxeology. It's praxis. I'm comparing red information with my experience. When it makes sense, I'll try it and it's functional, and then it's legit for me. Absolutely. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a ton of red pill stuff. If you want to go and you want to find some examples of shit that's flat out wrong, fill your boots. You're going to find a ton of it. Like, for example, I remember... I'm going to start using this example more because it's a pretty shitty one. But there was this guy talking about... Because there was a big concern about, well, what happens if I get sperm jacked? I don't know what MGTOW 420 decided to make that a thing. It's like, I guarantee you, there is not an epidemic of girls fishing condoms out of the trash and trying to preg themselves up. So he was like, well, my plan for this is simple. I just feed... I guess there's something where if you give a girl a bunch of orange juice, it causes like a Plan B miscarriage or some shit. Like, I have no idea if that's true or not. But that was the theory. And he's like, yeah, and I buy Plan B meds and I grind them up and I put them into the orange juice, and that didn't last. I mean, for a few reasons. One, there's way more effective ways to do that. Two, drugging somebody is actually illegal. And all it's going to take is one guy to catch a girl that maybe has an adverse reaction to that thing. They run a toxicology screen. When were you taking Plan B meds? I haven't. Well, you got an excess of Plan B and vitamin C in your body. It's like, well, I did have breakfast at Buddy's place. Cops come over. The guy's fucked. Well, like I said, prison is full of alpha males, and there you go. So yeah, there is all kinds of shitty strategies in the red pill if you go and look for them. And that's why the replication is important. There's no guarantee that MGTOW 42069 has any clue what he's doing, whether he actually tried it, or whether the thing that he did that may have worked for him is not going to completely screw up everybody else. It's got to be replicated, and you don't take any of it on a leap of faith. You take what people says, you think about what it does in your life, and then you try to apply the things that make sense. And granted, for a lot of guys, like, your comfort zone is one of your problems, right? So doing things that don't make sense, just dip your toe in. Does this make sense? No, but no, try it. Worst case scenario. What's the worst case scenario? She leaves. Well, she's already going to leave, and she's not fucking me for the last 2 years, so who cares? And then sure enough, hey, that actually worked. Well, that's neat. And you go on another one. Oh, this actually worked too. Oh, this didn't work so much, but I recovered. Or this does work. I fucked it up. Where did I fuck it up? Ah, okay, so I'll do it better next time. That's how the process works. I think Rule Zero Dad put it absolutely the best. It's like people don't want to swap notes anymore. They just want to borrow your notes. Not even buy, borrow. You fucking lazy bastards. Yeah, wasted my first few years with the red pill. That's the other thing. That's the 2-year. That's the 2-year mousetrap. Covert contract. John actually perfectly. He's like, I wasted my first 2 years with the red pill. That one is always the same. It's usually guys who do it in isolation. They lurk. They read. They apply it in their life. They don't write field reports. They just apply things. You know, and they don't quite go Rambo. But then usually and it's always 2 years. I don't know why. You're like the 15th guy I've seen said it's like, oh yeah, about 2 years I was fucking around. And then they always come in there, like my first report, I've been red pill aware for 2 years. And then they don't understand basics or functions. And that's because we all have our internal biases and our ego hides discomfortable things from us. So it's definitely important to have some guys to ping ideas off. You know, friends in real life who know what they're doing. Fuck, I'd even say psychiatrists if they were any good at it, but other than Dr. Sean Smith, I'm not seeing a lot of that. It seems to be pretty much you just have to find a good guy, and being a shrink has like nothing to do with it. Have a red pill guy, or, you know, heaven forbid, join somebody's Patreon where we do this stuff. Literally, this is what we do in there. Literally this. Guys will put a field report, very embarrassing sometimes, very successful other times. And then it's just, I'll break it down based on previous stuff like this, and other guys will come in there with their 2 cents, and then the guy gets a collection of data that he can use or not use as he sees fit, reports the results, and then we refine the process over time. And that's red pill. It's boring. We don't yell at drunk chicks. It doesn't start any beef. I mean, it does, but that's a different episode. And it's like a C-SPAN interview, and it's awesome. I love it. It won't get a lot of subs, and a lot of single guys would be like, what the fuck do I care about cold hands? I'm just trying to be alpha, bro. And you're like, go learn it the hard way, man. Again, Lou, thank you for the £5.50 super chat. Mad respect for you. Is that that you could clean up this space but stick to the process and swapping notes? Yeah, dude, if it's a space full of guys and some level of failure, it's going to be a shit show by definition. I mean, Dr. Smith's still around doing his thing. I just know there's been some fundamental disagreements about some fairly consistent red pill things. A lot of people tried to make it beef, which isn't. But I mean, I guess I shouldn't. I mean, to be fair, I did have that. My "She's Not Yours, It's Just Your Turn" video was basically me calling out Smith's interpretation of red pill is wrong, which I think he took that personally, or he assumed I was attacking him personally, which neither one was the case. Because I've heard 800 people say it, but, you know, he and Bulldog Mindset were the first 2 guys with sizable online presences that I could correct. And so, hey, here's beef, but instead of hating the person, disliking the idea. So, yeah, no one's cleaning up anything. We made our own space. Exactly. Is Rambo a normal stage for trying new things, trial and error? Nope. Rambo is its own thing. Rambo is very specific. Rambo is just applying things blindly with no self-awareness, zero calibration. That is Rambo. It's not going in 100%. It's not taking it slow or doing it too fast. Those are just random terms that mean nothing. When I did my map, it was 2 feet in. Jumped right in the deep end straight off. Made a bunch of mistakes, learned from them, iterated that very, very quickly. Fucking trial by fire. Other guys, they take their time. The Lit's a great example of this. 2 years, 2.5 years actually, just running his map, and it was just slow, steady progress. No ego attached to it. He just lifted, kept his head down, worked on frame, made small progress, and we both got there. We just took completely 2 different approaches. But the thing that both of us had was introspection and calibration. So, even shrinks and smart people cannot separate form from content. Well, intelligence and ego aren't related, so you can have one or the other. Anyways, I am going to end this one, but I think I'm going to start another one up, because what was the next one I had here? Yeah, I got a failed shit test, which looks fairly sizable, and I've also got a another one of those deleted critiques. You know, the ones where the guy deletes it because he's so embarrassed by it, but luckily enough we have enough quotes that we can kind of put together a story. One's going to be on scheduled sex, and the failed shit test one is just going to be about walking on eggshells. So I think you guys are going to enjoy those ones. Anyways, I'm going to turn this one off. I'll start the next one up. Just keep an eye on the channel. I'll get you there. And I'll talk to you guys in 5-10 minutes. Like I said, just keep an eye on the channel. Talk to you soon.